run diving for a dream, scintillas in the stream, hoping for what's true. I'm trawling for honor in this shallow pool. Borealis starlit crown arches over the Puget Sound. Berenice's hair drapes the horizon to full air. Where is my lucky star tonight? The seventh sister of the Pleiades walks in beauty like the night. Oh, that is best, dark and now lost to me. Only trust in the northern star. That's the only point that's fixed. I once believed in love. Even love cannot bridge this rift. Where is my lucky star tonight? The seventh sister of the Pleiades, who walks in a beauty like the night.
Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show.
Make Kohl's Black Friday your first stop. Get $15 Kohl's cash for every $50 spent. And incredible Black Friday doorbusters. Stores open Thursday at 5 p.m. Or shop Kohl's.com all day Thursday. Plus, take an extra 15% off. Kohl's Black Friday. Don't miss it. Doorbusters valid Thursday, November 28th, while supplies last or until 1 p.m. Friday. 15% offer valid November 25th to 29th with promo code THANKS. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
And I tell you what, California, Northern California is getting hit with a lot of snow. Kind of weird, isn't it? Well, anyway, we got Mary Joyce back on. She's talking about her new book about Bigfoots. Of anybody that is an expert of Bigfoot Earth changes, I think Mary Joyce tops the list. Again, she has a website that is so rich in this stuff. Mary, are you still with us?
I still am, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
I promised I would get to the samples for the last person who was talking at me, and it's kind of it shows you how difficult it is to confirm that samples are real. And we were at one site where it was very, very active with Bigfoot. I mean, there was just no doubt they were there. And we got this big clump of hair. It still had, debris from plants and stuff in the hair. And so I sent off some of that to a lab to have it analyzed. And it came back that they couldn't get a complete reading on it. They could only get the maternal side, which would only show up as human. Now, as far as a little bit of background on the biology of this, the dad side or the paternal side of any human or any creature is found in the nuclear DNA. So like if you have a hair strand, that would only be in that very, you'd have to pull a hair out completely, and that, let's say the root of the hair, that's where the nuclear DNA would be. Well, there wasn't any of that in the hair sample I sent, so that was a waste of money. And then another time, there was one place where there was this, well, still is, there's this steep embankment. It would take climbing equipment to climb up it, and there's a cave up there that the Bigfoot live in. And we have, on a number of occasions, found the footprints coming down, and then they cross this single-lane dirt road, and sometimes they go to this apple tree when the apple tree is in bloom. And so between the footprints and people also smelling the aroma of the Bigfoot in that same area, we were really pretty sure that maybe this poop that we found under the apple tree might, because it looked different than what we'd seen, might be from the Bigfoot. So we sent that off, and it turned up to be something like gray wolf or white wolf or fox or something of that nature. And so twice I've wasted money getting something tested. So if you're going to have a sample, you have to make sure it's going to be a sample that's going to have the nuclear DNA in it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it. If you got hair, if you don't have any roots attached to the hair, you're not going to get any DNA off of it at all, and none. But
you can get them. You can get the maternal.
You can
just with the hair, yes, but you can't get the nuclear DNA, which is where you get the male side.
Yeah, that would make it kind of hard, though, too. Now, again, if somebody wants to send out to a lab, I mean, how long does it normally take a lab to respond after you send it to them? And how expensive on the average is it to have it analyzed?
I found a lab in Canada, and so it really didn't break my budget to do it. I can't remember anymore. It was in the $200 range, maybe. And they turned things around fairly quickly. I mean, I think it was just a couple weeks. I think it can be much more expensive than that. I did a lot of checking before I decided to spend my money. I think it can be much more expensive than that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've probably done in our country some of these labs that, yeah. So you want to make sure if you got any evidence, you know. I mentioned this before. I don't understand why people, if they're out looking for Bigfoot and they find the footprints, they should have some type of containers for the DNA. I would scoop up some of that dirt where the footprint was and then send it out to have that analyzed, because, you know, they're out there walking without shoes. I would think they would leave traces, you know, each time they take a step.
I don't know about that. They don't wear shoes, so they're going to have tough soles. And you and I don't go leaving DNA samples when we go walking across the living room. So I don't know if that would be the best way to get it. The hair samples would probably be one of the better ones. The likelihood of getting a blood sample is slim to none, but that certainly would be a good one. And under the right circumstances, if you get real Bigfoot poop, that's supposedly a good source of it, too.
Oh, yeah.
How about
go ahead, James.
Water? I was going to say, how about the water filter system DNA? Have you ever thought about exploring that?
I don't know about that.
They take like streams and rivers or ponds, wherever Bigfoot may get into the water, they supposedly will leave DNA, and they take this water and they filter it, and they can check the DNA to see what has been in the water.
Seems like that would be a really, really long shot.
I don't know.
There's so much stuff in the water, and if it's floating in the water, how would you prove that it was from the Bigfoot?
I know it's new, and I've seen it on a couple of documentaries, and they've tried it with that and with other animals too. And I was just
did
curious
they have
if that
luck?
was something.
Did they have luck with it?
Well, the one it came back unidentifiable. So you know who's to say what that could be. The other one, they did it in Loch Ness. They found there was eels and other things, and they found out what was not in there. But again, I don't know. It's new, so who knows how accurate it is, like you say.
Well, how about contamination? I would think if there was a pond of water there.
Yeah, because when you send in samples, that they want you not to touch it, so that your own DNA isn't on it. So if they're being that strict with like hair samples being sent in, then how in the world would you protect a sample taken from water where lots of creatures could be? I just am full of questions, but there's much to be learned.
Well, I would think attorney would tear it apart if it was a criminal case, because you'd have every type of animal there. Beavers, you could have deer, foxes, any type of thing, bear, anything could be drinking out of that pond during the course of the day. So it'd be really cross contaminated if everything.
Right. Now, another thing that's interesting, when you find the uniqueness of the Bigfoot, we had one case, and I think, Gary, you and I at some time or another have talked about it. It's the most involved case that we've had, and there's just so many aspects to it. I don't even know where I want to go with this. I don't know. It's too deep. Steer me in another direction. I'm going into deep water when I shouldn't.
Well, okay. Well, that deep water is what we're known for. But, if you don't want to go into deep water, we can stay in the shallow water. What made you decide to write this book at this time, Mary?
Number one, I didn't see anybody else doing it. And that is also the reason that I wrote my book about the little people. Cherokee little people were real. Because there were these old-timers that were getting all this evidence of little people existing here in the mountains, and nobody had written about it. And these were all old-timers, and I thought, my God, when they died, all this information is going to be gone. Well, I did the same thing with the Bigfoot book. I'm not finding books or people who are putting out information about these other aspects of the Bigfoot. If they are, it's being done in a very small way. There's all sorts of stuff about the different kinds of footprints and handprints, and they take pictures of the tent structures that they make, and they get off on the howling and the taking the stick and beating it on trees. I got kind of bored with that. It just seemed like there's so much more, and like I said, over a 10-year period, I've been able to, I think I totaled up more than 70 articles I've done for the website just on Bigfoot. And I thought, oh my God, these are spread out over 10 years. And I thought, I got to put this together so that it's all in one bunch where anybody can sit down and very easily, get a feel of what's really happening. So that was the reason for both books. If somebody else had done them, I wouldn't do them.
Well, the thing is, I've interviewed people on the show on Bigfoot. So I have everything where, we had some of the major people out in the Bigfoot community, like Ron Moorhead, is now flipped about his feeling about Bigfoot, that they're not a flesh and blood creature. They're more, was it, James, a paranormal entity?
Kind of more of an interdimensional maybe type of being?
Yeah.
They may have those abilities, but everybody I have talked to has dealt with something that is a living, breathing creature just like you and me. So I whenever we go to extremes and say one thing or the other, I think we have to be careful. I'm willing to stay open to the possibility that these very real creatures, very physical creatures, have abilities that we humans might not have. They might actually be able to, change their vibration and disappear before our eyes. I've heard that from witnesses repeatedly. So that's a real possibility. But I'm not going to dismiss them as just ethereal creatures that, just come down from the ethers and suddenly materialize in front of our eyes. Most of them are living day to day on the ground just like we do.
Well, I can tell you my encounter up in the Canadian Rockies, that wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was a living creature, and it showed everything from aggression to, again, if it wanted to kill my friend and me, it would have done it. It did a good